You know, I get asked all the time about building kitchen cabinets, and there are hundreds of ways to build kitchen cabinets. But today, I need to build a base cabinet for a kitchen, and I need to do it really, really fast. So I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to build a good sturdy kitchen cabinet. In fact, I'm going to do the whole thing in less than a couple of hours. So let's go take a look how I'm going to do it. The cabinet I need to build is not exactly standard in depth, height, or width, but it's being made to fit a very specific space. Don't worry about that. It's the technique of building that we're looking at right now. What I need to do first is cut out the sides. I've got a left side and a right side. It'll be made out of plywood, and the height of that plywood is 35.5 inches, and the depth, or it'll be the width of the piece, is 25.5. And there's a toe kick space at the bottom. This is pretty standard, 3 inches deep and 3.5 inches high. So let's cut out those two plywood pieces first. All right, now I've broken my plywood down into a little bit more manageable size piece. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut the dimension that will be the depth of the cabinet, the width of the plywood piece. I'm going to cut it a little oversized so that I cut one edge and get a good clean edge, and then I'll flip it around and I'll cut it to exact size, and I'll have two good clean parallel edges. So let's get going on that. All right, I've got one good clean edge established, so now I'm going to cut this to the exact width. Clean edge against the fence, good side up, and here we go. All right, now a little time-saving trick for you. Don't throw this away. Save this scrap. All right, now I'm doing the same thing with the length of the board, which will be the height of the cabinet. I'm going to cut it a little long, flip it around, and cut it to exact length so I get really good, nice edges all the way around. All right, and just like before, we'll put the good, clean edge up next to the fence. Cut off the excess and bring it to exact size. All right, I've got my cabinet side pieces laid out and I've figured out the orientation. I want this piece to be the right-hand side of the cabinet and this to be the left. And the way I've oriented this is so that what's going to be the front of the cabinet is here on the left side and here on the right side. And I've made little arrows pointing to it so I don't forget. Now what we need to do is we need to cut out our toe kick notch. Now the notch typically is 3 inches deep, but I'm going to face that toe kick with a piece of 3/4 inch maple, just for appearance sake. So I'm actually going to cut this notch 3 3/4 inch deep. So what I've done is I've set my ruler with the rule stop, and I'm just going to make a couple of marks here so that I can get lined up and I'll know my distances are correct. And I'm going to do that on both side pieces. Then I need to reset the ruler for 3.5 to get the height of the notch. And there we are. And I'll do the same thing. I'll just make a couple of marks here. Now what we're going to do, because we're just doing this one cabinet, we're just going to make this quick and easy. And we're just going to cut these notches out with the jigsaw. All All right, now I've got my workpiece clamped down so it won't move. Got obviously the toe kick marked out, got my jigsaw set up, got my safety glasses. I don't have the dust collection set up. It's only a couple of cuts. I'll hold my breath and I'll clean up later. Now I'm going to cut inside the lines because I want to make sure if I mess up I can clean this up. So here we go. The variable speed is great so you don't overcut the corner. Not that it would really matter, it probably wouldn't show. I'm going to cut this one right-handed just so you can see a little bit better. Okay, now all I got to do is just take a chisel and clean up that little corner right there. Oh, it's nice and smooth. I'm just going to sand this a little bit and it's ready to go. Now I'm using what I call secondary lumber for some of the bracing inside the cabinet because it's not going to show. The cabinet's going to be maple, but these braces I'm just making them out of store-bought poplar. Now what I need to do is I need to cut a couple of cross braces for inside the cabinet that are going to establish the width of the cabinet. Now this cabinet needs to be 22 inches wide overall on the outside edges. So rather than fool around with subtracting the dimensions of the plywood, which is a little undersized 3/4 inch, I'm going to use 2 of the scraps. I'm going to lay them here against a fresh cut end on this piece of poplar. And then if I just measure over 22 inches and make a mark, this piece will be exactly the right size to go between 2 pieces of plywood and make the outside of the cabinet 22 inches. Easy peasy, so let's cut some pieces. All right, when I marked off the first piece, I said I needed a couple of pieces. The reality is I need 7. So I've set up a stop block over here so they're all identical in length and the cutting actually goes pretty fast. All right, now with these boards cut to length, this is actually going to wind up essentially being a frame around the base of the cabinet. There'll be a piece here and then one of these pieces here. I need to figure out this length here, and that's pretty easy to do. I'm going to take 2 pieces of this. I'm going to line the 2 pieces up flush with the toe kick. And then all I've got to do is just measure up to the inside edge of this board, and that's the length of board I need, which is 20 1/4. However, I'm going to shorten this board by 1/4 inch so that when I put the frame together, it'll leave a 1/4 inch space in the back for my 1/4 inch plywood back of the cabinet. So, again, flush up my 2 pieces, calculate the length by going from the edge of the plywood to the first piece, which is 20 1/4, subtract 1/4, and I need these pieces to be 20 inches long. So I'll go cut those. Before we go too much further on this, I want to knock together a couple of sub-assemblies. I want to go ahead and put together this base frame. And then I ran upstairs because my pocket hole jig is mounted to a bench upstairs, and I ran pocket holes in both ends of 3 of these boards. 2 of them I'm just going to set aside, and this one we're going to join at a right angle to one of the other undrilled boards just like this. I'm going to do it like this, and I'm going to put some glue on it. I'm going to use 18 gauge 1 1/4 long brads just so I don't have to worry about clamps. This, I'm going to shoot 1 nail in, then I'm going to square it up, shoot another nail in, and make sure I get this assembly nice and square. So here we go. let those dry for a few minutes and we'll start on the face frames. All right, I've got a couple of pieces of reasonably straight-grained maple. This is going to be our rails and stiles. I'm going to cut the stiles first. I'm going to rip these to 2 1/8. Now the rails are going to be 2 inches. There's a little difference there and I'll explain why in just a couple of minutes. All right, I'm going to need 5 rails. I've got some stock here I'm going to rip down to 2 inches because that's going to be my rail width. I'm going to make my first cut and make sure I've got the width just right. That's it. Well, there's one. All right, so for the face frame, I need the height, in other words, the length of the stiles. I need the height to be the same as from the edge of this toe kick to the top of the cabinet, and that is 32 inches exactly. Just confirm that. Yep. So I'm going to cut my stiles at 32 inches. Now I made a mark on the board and then I set up a stop block so that I get them exactly the same length. When you cut everything exactly the same length using stop blocks, it makes it a whole lot easier to square up all your assemblies. So here we go. All right, I've got the face frame laid out and pretty much ready to start putting together. So let me show you what I did. First thing that I did was I lined up and tried to get the grain to where it looked the best on the face frame. Then I started cutting spacers. I've got 2 7-inch spacers here because this rail is going to be exactly 7 inches above the bottom rail, making space for a large drawer here. These are 6-inch spacers to hold that rail, and these are 5-inch spacers, and that leaves a 4-inch opening at the top. Now, of course, these will come out, but I'm using these just to space it until I get the thing put together. Now, obviously, this is face up, and we want to use pocket holes to join this together, so we need to do that on the back side. So I need to flip all the pieces over in the correct order, and I need to go drill the pocket holes. So let me go get that done and we'll put this face frame together. All right, now I've drilled all of the pocket holes and I've flipped the whole assembly, all the pieces over, and I've clamped in what is the bottom rail. Now with these pocket holes, you really have to clamp these in good. Otherwise, they'll move on you as you're driving in the screw. Now, I'm using the fine thread screw because this is a hard wood. And we'll just go right in. Whoops. And you'll notice I'm not using any glue. Face frames are not load-bearing per se. And the pocket holes will be plenty, plus the face frame will be glued to the front of the cabinet, so it's going to be fine. And there we go. All right, so now one of the things that I like to do is I like to take it real slow with these and clamp each section as I go along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this whole assembly like this. And I'm going to screw in the rails on this side, right down here, because then I can clamp everything. Then I'll spin it around and screw in the rails on the other side. So I think our face frame came out pretty good. It looks nice. So let's review here. Our face frame is all set. Our base assembly glued up, dried, and ready to go. We've got some cross braces that are cut to length, pre-drilled for pocket holes, and they're all set. We've got a sub-assembly cross brace, which is going to brace the back of the cabinet and the top. And our two side pieces are cut, and the toe kicks are cut out, and they're ready to go. Not bad for an hour's worth of work. Now I'm going to split this into 2 videos, so be sure to come back for part 2 and we'll wrap up this cabinet. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.